Well, hello again, HR Tech Groovers. It's been a while since we've been able to get back together. We must all be living busy lives. How have you been, Jane and Sambit?
Lock it down over.
I know. Aren't we lucky? I really do feel for our colleagues in some of the other states. It's it's a really challenging time, isn't it? Particularly around school holidays and the like. How about you, Sambit? You well?
I'm glad to be back again with both of you. Survived one more lockdown, and I'm not sure what's in future, but so far so good.
Good. No, good. So Sambit, Jane and I were having a chat the other day, and we'd had a client have a conversation with us around, the decision that a lot of organisations are faced with, and that is around whether they can start to consider a best of breed strategy or an all-in-one strategy. And when we're talking about that in terms of technology, what we're meaning is, looking at products in the market that are positioned as the very best of the best in their field, whether that be recruitment or talent or et cetera, or an all-in-one solution, which we know there are plenty of those also on the market. And we thought it would actually be a really good one for us to have a conversation about, because we know that we've got a lot of followers or potential followers who are, I guess, in that situation of considering, what do they do? What path should they go down? What does it all look like? What are the pros and cons? And I guess with that in mind, what a great opportunity for us to, discuss it and hopefully provide a little bit of guidance. So Jane, I might sort of start with, I might throw to you then, given we were sort of having a bit of an initial discussion. What are some of the things that organisations, should be thinking about when they're starting to sort of weigh all this up?
I think with this, there's no solution that fits everyone. Like, every company is at a different stage, and I guess in their maturity, I think they need to, look at number one is, what's their requirements? What do they actually need? What's their strategy? Is their strategy to, focus on talent? Or is it to, I don't know, maybe they're growing significantly and they need systems to grow with them as well? I think one of the other things too is, like, what are the current systems? I don't think you could go from an Excel spreadsheet straight into a best of breed. I think one of your famous quotes, Josh, is, crawl, walk, run. And where are you actually on that journey? Like, do you need to go to maybe not a best of breed first and then go on to a best of breed? But I think it really depends on what is the needs of that company, and guess what's their current state. And also, I think a big consideration too is, when you're looking at these things, is how you're going to support these products going forward as well. Do you have the right structure in place to support them? And is that something that you need to start, to work on as well when you're thinking about systems going forward as well?
It's such a call out, Jane, and I'm glad you touched on the operating model piece there around your structure, because I was thinking about the same thing when you were saying that. I think sometimes organisations think about the system without necessarily thinking about the people and the processes, and you're spot on, like that whole organisational maturity piece, and where are you at, in terms of that maturity piece is really important, because let's face it, every organisation's at a different level of maturity. What about you, Sambit? I guess, you've seen a lot of things in your time as well. What's your advice to organisations around some of this stuff?
Look, from my side, for a best of breed system, I guess one of the strengths is the user experience they offer. And for me, it is not user acceptance testing that you discover what the user experience should be. For an employee and manager, you should actually evaluate that at the start of how that product is going to offer. And if that's the solution is in best of breed, then so be it. Otherwise, if it is an integrated platform, then that's another area of thought. And as Jane mentioned, companies need to evaluate whether they want to jump into in stages, or they want to implement one system at a time. So for me, user experience is definitely on a priority, and that's why you will see that some big companies are now investing heavily in that area. The other thing I wanted to mention is about the strategy of linking these systems. When you have when you invest on best of breed, you also need to look at how the systems is going to integrate, how is the data going to be flowing through, reported. not during the implementation. Right? This is what we have seen. We want to try to stitch together during the implementation, and it doesn't work, and then we have project delays and costs incurring. So I think these are probably my two key takeaways, Josh.
I reckon I think sometimes integration doesn't get enough time and airtime in this consideration piece. And Jane, I can see you nodding there because I think both of us can really relate to this one where it's all very well to consider other systems that complement your technology stack, but you've really got to put some time in, don't you, around how it all hangs together and sort of what are those key integration points. And like even simple things, I guess, like the whole onboard, offboard, you might sort of think, okay, well, at its basic form, how are employees getting from one system into the other? And if they're not properly considered, that's a lot of manual work that someone ends up having to own. And I think, Jane, to your point that earlier around cost, I'd encourage organisations to just really make sure they consider total cost of ownership. And that's not just the subscription cost. That's not just the cost of the implementation. What's the ongoing cost of the system in totality of licensing, support and maintenance, and the underlying human element or the staffing costs to actually support these systems, just to make sure that the business case really stacks up and is really considered in full, because I think that's a real pitfall that I've seen some organisations struggle with. My only add to the sort of the terrific points that both of you have raised is probably just also around bearing in mind when evaluating some of these vendors, there's always so much change in the cloud-based system landscape. There's acquisitions, there's a company acquiring another. It's one of these areas where players come and go in the market from what I've seen. And so I think it's really important that organizations, when they're evaluating any of these strategies, just to do a really good, thorough due diligence on the vendor and think about what's been their past success, what's their future roadmap look like, just to make sure that there really is a steady stream of enhancements and a strategy going forward that you can continue to grow in. Because I think, Jane, picking up on that crawl, walk, run, you're going to start somewhere, you'll evolve, you'll grow into the technology, but once you've reached that element of maturity, it's like, well, what's next? So going from crawl to walk to run, etc. And I think it's really, I've always said to people, and certainly tried to operate this way myself, you want to pick a technology stack or solution that will grow with you over time, because it's a considerable investment and in terms of time and cost and effort, and you want to make sure that you're not re-platforming every couple of years.
And I think that point as well, Josh, I think understanding that whole system architecture piece as well is really important. And even from a user experience perspective, if you're going to have a HR tech stack, what does that look from a user experience? You've got all these best of breed systems, but what's the user experience across all of those systems? Like, how does the employee, for example, know which system to use? And I think that really comes down to change management when you bring those systems in as well. Trying to really create that seamless employee experience, which I think is it's another consideration for from an employee perspective as well. I was just going to say, if you do have that HR tech stack as well, and you've got those multiple systems, I guess another consideration is how you support all those integrations between those as well. Because as we know, you need to think about that up front, but you also need to think about it ongoing as well. I've never had an integration that I haven't had to touch ongoing.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. Jane, I was going to say, I think, I've heard you talk a lot about through your service design lens and sort of user experience, even that notion of journey mapping and understanding key pain points and things. And I know you always do a terrific job in that space. And I think it's a really important piece, I guess, isn't it, to sort of understand, well, what are those key pain points that you're solving for through all of this? And, I think that really helps also ensure a really considered approach on some of these things. Some really good stuff here, guys. I feel like we could talk a lot about some of this space, but it is definitely one that organisations, it's a decision that organisations will face when they're considering some of these things are technology investments. Sam, any sort of closing or final thoughts from yourself around for organizations?
Well, look, it's a good start that, we started with this topic. I guess I will probably come up with multiple, discussions in future, but I think it's a good space to be in. There's a lot of, good applications in the market. It's just about speaking to customers who have implemented them, doing your due diligence, and these are all the things that most companies do. It is again, reevaluating the ROI as well. Best of breed systems could give you a faster ROI because the implementation is faster, quicker. So how does that also factor in, I guess, in the implementation? So look, I think it's really over to the companies to chat with people, because that's the best feedback they can get for best of breed systems.
And yeah, I agree, Sam. I think that customer reference piece is really important to understand and sort of when evaluating the market. Terrific chat, guys. I think it was really great to sort of really understand, your different perspectives on this. And it's certainly something that we've all seen a lot of and had some experience in. So, hopefully for those of you listening, you've been able to get something out of this conversation. And look, as always, we'd love to hear from you. If there's any questions or comments that you've got, feel free to share them with us, we look forward to catching up again and continuing to discuss all things HR technology. Until then, bye for now.
Bye.